Welcome to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast, a place to discuss pain, passion, and pursuits.
Let's get it. I want to feel alive.
Breathe.
Make some moves.
Protect the throne. This is Sexy Freedom Media Podcast.
Welcome everybody to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast. It's your host, Helen Edwards and
January Liddell.
It's been a while since we've done this. Your two hosts.
I'm excited. I'm excited to talk today about what do you do when you feel like you're back at square one. Helen, I'm so glad we've reconnected. I'm so glad we're back on track. Life has been a doozy for the past 6 months, 7 months. Wait, we're 9 months now. 9 months. It's been 9 months. So I am so happy that we're back on track. Helen, good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Let's talk about this. What do you do when you feel like you're back at square one? Because I feel like that's where we're at.
Yeah, it's crazy because I chose this topic and I think the intro to this was perfect because it's kind of the way it feels, right? When you're like, I know how to do this. I've been doing this for a long time. And then you take that first step and you immediately trip up. And it's like what just happened. You know, the audio's all messed up. We thought we were like clean and clear, but then boom. And then you get in your head, you're like, what will people think? Will they think I'm not a professional? Will they think I'm like, this sucks? And it's exactly what happens in your life when you've reached a certain point. You're climbing, something happens in your life. Life just punches you and then punches you and punches you. And next, you're buried in the sand with your head just barely sticking out. And you're like, oh my God, I'm back at square one. What do you do? What are you confronted with?
I think, because I was back at square one. So last year, I lost 25 pounds, right? And that I felt like the most amazing. And I think, Helen, you and I connected last year around that time frame. And we were both really doing well. Last year, everything was like, okay, things were just kind of lining up. And then 2022 hits. And it felt, for you, you lost your mom, and that's a huge transition, and there were other things, that you were, that was going on in your life and other things that were going on in mine. And it wasn't the same. So it wasn't the same as 2021. I did gain back some weight because I was so focused on my career and I was focused on my business, and, I let that go. So I did feel like I was back at square one in terms of that, along with many other things, right? Just feeling like, how like last year we had like this great momentum and we were super, super good. And then all of a sudden 2022, and it's like, whoa, things just kind of shifted for, I think, both of us. And so I feel like we're kind of right there, kind of back at square one. You have your story to tell. I'm not going to even say what's going on, what else is going on in your life. But for me, I think the way that I've been handling it is initially, okay, so I'm not going to lie. Initially, I was upset. Initially, I was like, no, and I was frustrated. And then I realized, hey, thank God I'm alive. That's probably the first acknowledgement, is like, thank God I'm alive and I can go back to square one. So that's really my first initial reaction. What was yours?
Wow. Okay. So my initial reaction was, I'm a boss babe. I run, before everything started happening, my journey of kind of being in a capsule started last October when I found out my mom had terminal cancer. And I just basically stopped everything, put everything on hold. And it was a really great decision because I got to spend my time with her. And then after she passed, I ended up having my wisdom tooth pulled. And then everything went wrong with that. Now I have a dislocated jaw from it. And then I ended up having my hysterectomy because I had cancer. And I'm doing this because I didn't know until like after I had the surgery and I did have cancer. And then I went through 8 weeks of healing, and now I'm barely getting back to my gym routine and getting back to me. But I realized it hit me when I realized like I feel like I'm back at square one because, not only am I physically starting from scratch, with my gym routine, like working out to me is not something that I'm going to do or that I'm doing. It is a part of my mental health. Like there's no not working out in my life, unless I'm recovering from surgery, which I really couldn't do anything for the first weeks. And the second thing is I realized is with my business, it had just been put on hold for a year that I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm starting at scratch again. I'm trying to chugga, 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 like a train, very slow, trying to ramp it up, getting my podcast back out there, getting, my business back up. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start coaching. Like, and it's almost like it hit me. You're back at square one. Everything you've built is now starting at ground zero again. And kind of like you, that initial, like, oh my God, like I worked so hard. And there's always that comparison where I'm just like, oh man, look at where they're at, and then I start beating myself up. And that's where, we talked about grace last week, giving ourselves grace. And I realized, whoa, okay, slow down, mama. Like, listen here, girl. Stop. First of all, stop the comparison. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to view this, because there's no way I'm going to let you sink down, because you aren't where you thought you're supposed to be. So that's kind of how it was for me.
Yeah, I think I had some negative self-talk for myself as well, because like you said, we were really working hard and we were like just up there, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh man, back to ground zero. And it was kind of a blow, right? In the beginning it was a blow, and then that whole idea of grace, right? The grace for ourselves, and really talking compassionately towards ourselves. And I think you and I are both the same in a sense that we'll have those moments, right? We can have a moment, just don't have a day, right? And we'll have that moment of like, right? But then we're really good at using self-affirmations and, telling ourselves, okay, we got this. And so my second thing, right, after I said, okay, thank God I'm still alive and I can actually go back to square one and do this, because there are some that cannot, right? And so we are so fortunate that we get to, right? I like that word. We get to be at square one. For me, it was a shift in perspective, and that shift is, hey, it's a clean slate. It's a clean slate. It's like starting from the beginning. And, I think, I'm training for a marathon, and yesterday I ran, and I used to be running like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I run 3 times a week, and I haven't, because I've been so tired and exhausted and all that. And so I haven't been running those three times a week. So yesterday I ran, and I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm back at square one again, and, but then I checked my results and I'm like, oh, it's not so bad. And I think that's part of the thing that we should look at, is that we may feel like we're back at square one, and feelings aren't necessarily true, right? It's a feeling, right? And yesterday for me, it was proof that in my mind, I thought I was back at square one, but I'm really not. I'm really a little bit more further than I was when I first started. And I think that's what I wanted to say, is that the second thing is, be compassionate to ourselves. And even though we may feel like we're back at square one, we actually have the tools that have set us up in order to progress much further than we were when we were really at square one. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. One of the things I was going to mention also, I really love everything you said when you're talking about the mind, being there, is it's not that we are at square one. It's our mindset that is at square one. And if you look at your life and you look at your journey of where you've come from, there's that quote, you didn't come this far to just get this far. Your mindset went backwards for the day, for the week, for however long it's there for. You really need to say, hey, mindset, let me grab you and pick you up and pull you where I'm at. And that's kind of what I had to do for myself, is say, you're really not at square one. And like you said, January, you feel like you are, but really you've taken probably that next step without even knowing it. Your universe, God has pushed you onto that next plateau and you don't even realize it. And that's why it's unfamiliar, it's uncomfortable, it's unknowing. And so from all that when you don't know something, you revert to what you do know. And you're going to feel when something's brand new and out of your comfort zone, you're going to feel that you're at square one. Because remember, square one always feels like I'm at the beginning. Of course, you're at the beginning. You're at the beginning of your new journey. You're at the beginning of your new chapter. And that's what I just told myself, like, oh, okay. And like what you were saying, January, it's a clean slate. And I always like to be reminded of inspirational stories of like, the entrepreneurs, the boss people, the people who made $1 million or, achieved great things at different ages in their life, 25, 45, 55, 70, 80. And they all started at these different ages. And I thought, okay, if anybody can do it at any age and start somewhere, then age is out of the picture. I could start here at this clean slate. What you said, January, I could start here. All I've got to do is start making little moves and see which door opens and see what's behind door number 2, what's behind door number 3. And, maybe what I'm holding on to, my sister said this to me. She was like, maybe you need to rebrand. Maybe you need to change names of things that you have. Maybe you need to write a new book. Maybe you need to do something new. It's not necessarily holding on to everything that's old. Like maybe this is set up for you to get your new groove back, this new groove, not back. Maybe you are supposed to get your old groove back, but maybe you're also supposed to put on a new outfit. Like, who knows?
It's so funny. What you said reminds me of a metamorphosis, right? Like a butterfly, right? So even though we may, we're going to fly. And that's the thing, right? Once we get out of our mindset and take out the woe is me, do you know what I mean? The woe is me, the, oh my gosh, because I know I have a pity party. Okay. I do have a pity party. Okay. So I'm good. I'm not alone. So after that pity party, then we're like, all right. And I know you and I are both boss babes and we're like, okay, we got this. And I think that's the mind frame, that's the affirmation, because we have to talk to ourselves. At the end of the day, we have to be our biggest cheerleaders. We can be our worst critics, but we can actually also be our biggest cheerleader. And the way that I see that is, like you said, it's this like change, put on a new outfit, totally put on a new outfit. Once we change that perspective of, oh, I'm not the same as I was back in this year, back in that year, back in, last year, whatever, I'm not there, and that's okay. And I think just saying to ourselves that that's okay, and it means that there's something better. So if we can just, tell ourselves that there's something better, and we already have the tools that we've worked with before, that now is just like, now we're just going to be a butterfly. We're going to I can't even say the word. metamorphosize.
Metaphorically.
Change. We're going to change into a new Helen, a new January, a new whoever you are out there. You are going to be this different person, maybe not the same as the one last year, but you would definitely evolve from what you were last year. Even though you may feel like you're in square one, you're actually evolving. And that's just the same that I was talking about, my run yesterday. I really thought that I was slow, and I wasn't slow, but and it that was a good measure for me to see. Unfortunately for this type of scenario, we can't really see like tangible, like what's the measurement of how we've changed. But just know and believe that even though you're starting back, or you feel like you're starting back from square one, you're actually much further than you really are. You're not at square one because you've already had the tools. So now you're changing into this new you. Anyway.
Yeah. So what are three things, like if you said 3 pointers that people can do for themselves, who feel like they're back at square one and feeling a little bit down about it? 3 simple points. What would you say, January?
1, be compassionate to yourself. Okay. So that's give grace, be compassionate. Number 2, change your perspective in terms of, okay, so I love that quote. When you look at things, when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. So instead of feeling that you're square one, say to yourself, I am evolving to be a better me. So I'm evolving to be the better me. And number 3, so I said, be compassionate, change your perspective. And number 3 is to believe in yourself, to believe that you can do this, to believe that, you're not at square one, that's 1, but to believe that there's something better. So you are starting at a clean slate, you're starting new, and just know that there are worlds of possibilities out there, and you just believe in yourself that you will be that beautiful, evolved you, the better version of you. So those are the 3 things.
Yes, I love that.
What are the things?
Yeah. Okay. So the 3 things I would suggest are 1, move your body. So oftentimes when we feel stuck, our body's going to feel stuck. Our body's going to follow suit on whatever our mindset is, wherever our mindset is at. So sometimes people call it like, I'm in a funk, or I don't feel like it. Well, F your feelings and get your body moving. So what I do, and I'm telling you this because I know this and I practice this. Yesterday, I woke up in a funk. My hormones have been all over the place because of my surgery, and I didn't want to get out of bed. And I was like, I'm going to have to mom me, basically I'm going to push myself out of bed. First thing I did when I got up is I put on some music that moves me. I love, Latin music. And I started just going with it. I was like, no, I don't want to, and then, and then next thing you know, I was like getting with it. So I changed my physiology. I changed everything so that way I can become whole and start my day off, with some movement. And I'm telling you, you can change it like this. So move your body. The second thing I would suggest is make baby steps. So if you are an entrepreneur, if you are doing something for your job, or if you're doing something to make you happy, the biggest thing that you can do to draw happiness back into your life is to acknowledge another person. So I like to go, most of us spend our time on social media. So, and let's not lie about it. Most of us grab our phones first thing in the morning and check Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. So go on there and just give somebody a compliment. And that will, you're already starting your day off by putting those good vibes out there, and those good vibes are going to come back to you. And then, so first one, move your body. Second one, acknowledge somebody else. And the third one is, this is big because this is using your resources. Okay. Google is so abundant of ways to find out how to do something. If you feel like you are at square one, Where do you want to be? Ask yourself, where do I want to be? What do I want to do? And listen to yourself, like write it down or record yourself saying the answers, or just listen to yourself saying things out loud. Like, today, I just want to, and be specific with it. Like, I want to be successful. It's not specific. Today I want to, at least have 5 people know about my podcast. Okay, what are you going to do to make that happen? You're going to talk to 5 people about it, whether that's online or in person. So make tangible, small goals and use your resources. Use your social media resources. Like I said, a lot of us spend time online. So join your Facebook groups and find out which groups you're in and look at them very carefully. Do you want to be in these Facebook groups? Are they going to be value to you? Are you connecting with people in the Facebook group? And I'm leaning more into the groups because groups are very resourceful. And when you feel like you're at square one, sometimes it could be because of where you're connected. So check your connections. And if you feel like they're not working for you, get rid of them. Get out of them. You're not going to hurt anybody. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings because you're doing what you need to do for you. And you are most important during this time. Like January said, and I'm going to mention this again, that clean slate, clean slate. You get, it sounded like I was from Australia. It's crazy. Tapping in. But yes, you get to create this whole new masterpiece. So use your resources, change your body, the physiology in your body, and then acknowledge others. And that's all just going to go full circle for you.
I love that it's stepping outside of yourself. A lot of the things that you said is stepping out of yourself. Yesterday I was in a funk myself, actually. So it's interesting how you and I kind of have similar things, right, going on. So yesterday I moved, I danced, I went, because I told myself I was going to do 365 days of dancing. And part of the reason why I wanted to do that is because there is joy. There's joy in the midst of us feeling like we're back at square one. There's joy in the midst of sadness. There's still joy there, and there's still something to be thankful for. So yes, definitely move. Number 2, acknowledge somebody else. I love that because that steps away, that allows us to step away from our own woe is me. Mm-hmm. And really think about somebody else and compliment somebody else. So I love that. And then that was number 2. Number 3 was use your resources and make baby goals. I love the baby goals. It's funny. I had a friend. She had a thing on her story, and the thing on her story was, today I'm going to do a dish. I may not do all the dishes, but I'll do a dish. I'm going to maybe make my bed. If I make my bed, and that's all that I do for the rest of the day, I completed a goal. So those are definitely really good baby steps. And, I like that you said, what are you going to, for you said, I want 5 people to look at the podcast. Well, how are you going to accomplish that? And then it breaks away from woe is me. It breaks away from, oh my gosh, like that fear and that exacerbating feeling. I can't even explain that feeling when you do feel like you're at square one. I do want to acknowledge that. So you should acknowledge that you're feeling how you're feeling. It's good to acknowledge that. And then once you acknowledge it and you see like, you say, okay, this is where I'm at. And then you say, all right, now let's get to work. And there's the 3 things that Helen said, 3 things that I said. So you've got all these different tips to get you out of that, oh my gosh, I am back at square one type of feeling, because you're really not. You're not. You may think you are, but you're not. You have all these different resources, like Helen said. Google is amazing, and, you just get out of it. Just get out of that. I think it's also getting out of your comfort zone, Helen. Would you agree? It's getting out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that feeling at square one it happens to all of us. It happens to the most successful people. And when you feel like you're at square one, that really derives from comparison, because you're how do you know you're at square one? Well, you know that because you're comparing yourself to people who are at square two, square three, square four, if you're not comparing, then there's no squares. All right. But if you are comparing subconsciously, let me see my hand. There it is. There's my hand. If you're comparing subconsciously, that is where you're telling yourself you're at square one, or you're at any place or any box. It's because you are comparing. And comparison is the thief of joy. I mean, every single person who is successful or wise has said comparison is the thief of joy. You've got to be really careful when you are comparing, because we all do it. There's a comparison that's healthy when it comes to actually competition or making goals or good things like that. But as with everything, use it in moderation, because if you are allowing it to get inside your head, it will affect you and make you feel like, oh my God, I'm at square one. And I know this because I've caught myself doing it lately. And I have to sit down and I've got to tell myself, like, let's have a talk. You want some Netflix right now? All right, we'll do the work, Like, I got to beast mode sometimes on myself.
Yeah,
because I have
you gotta have that love.
Yeah.
Sorry. So yeah, I think the tough love is important, because you can, you said, comparing yourself. I compare myself to myself. Okay. So I compare myself to myself. This was, what happened last year and this year. And even comparing yourself to yourself is not good. Just like Helen said, it's really not good for you to compare, to compare yourself and to just really be where you're at. I think that's the hardest thing, Helen. The hardest thing is like being where you're at and finding peace to be where you're at. So one of the other things that I'm doing is pausing. You've been doing 2-hour meditations. I admire you for doing 2-hour meditations. I have been doing like 1 minute, 5-minute meditations. Oh, look, I just compared. I'm not comparing. I'm saying great job. So high five to you. I'm okay with my 1 minute and my 5-minute pause. And that pause is good because I feel like for some reason here in America, we're very like, okay, we got to be busy. If we're not busy, then there's something wrong with us. There's like, and I find myself constantly like packing up my schedule, and we really need to sit still. And it's the hardest thing for us Americans to do is sit still and just be okay with where we are, be okay with ourselves and just hearing ourselves. And so taking that pause is vital for me to kind of recenter myself and to know that I'm okay. I'm okay. And I'll tell myself, I am okay. I am alive. I am well. I am blessed. So yeah. So that tough love of like, get to work. I love that.
There's just so many things you can do to pull yourself out of a funk. There's so many things you can do to get yourself out of feeling that you're in square one. There's so many things and solutions out there. But here's the thing, you've got to do them. And that's why I've always been into action. Always. I'm a confidence coach. I'm a soundboard coach. I work with people with their businesses. The thing is that everybody wants one. I want this. I want that. I want this. I got these goals, these goals, these goals. Well, you gotta take the steps. You've got to do the work. You've got to be the one to make yourself go from point A to point B. And you've got to also give yourself grace. And for me, I'll share my experiences. I want to say almost 16 years of dedication and commitment to what I like to say my expertise is, creating events, workshops, retreats. I can often get down on myself. Like I'm not where other people are when they have less experience than I am. But then I tell myself, there's so many things that happen in each one of our lives that is so different. Like you were January, you were saying I can do 1 minute of meditation, and me 2 hours. That's 2 hours on a day that I've got really nothing to do. And when I say I've got nothing to do, that's because I've cleared my schedule to have nothing to do. But some days I don't meditate at all, So our days are so different to each other. And that's why, again, it's really important for us not to compare, and also unload it. Like this is how I've viewed it. I've got to be like, I don't care what happens in everybody else's life. Like, look what's happening. This is me talking to me. Look what's happening in my life. How do I feel today? Before I check in with everybody else, acknowledging is good. This is separate. This is me checking in with myself. How do I feel? How do I feel today? And then I can acknowledge me, So I was going somewhere really good with this, and then I completely brain fogged on it. But see what I'm saying? I could spend so much time comparing myself to so many people, but I've come to the point in my life, in my 40s, finally, where I've let so much go. If I don't become the big successful TEDx speaker that I once dreamed about being, I am okay with that. Let me tell you, I am so okay with that. And before I would be like, I'm not okay with that. Like, this is what I'm going to do. This is where I want to be. Now I'm like, oh my God, I'd rather spend time with the people that I love before losing them. That to me is success. And, being able to put my business on hold and spend the last days with my mom for the last 4 months that she was alive, every single day, like that to me is successful, because there are very successful people out there who are so successful that they can't put that time aside because they're so committed to so many things that they can't spend time with the people that they love. And I've realized where success lies for me. And it's different for everybody. There can be people who have it all: time, money, everything. For me, where I'm at in my life, it is okay if I never have, 6-pack abs. It is okay if I never have the body I dreamt of in my 20s. It is okay if I don't have $1 million in my bank account. I am so okay. But guess what? I'll have fun going for it right now. F it. Fuck it. Why not? Like life has become more fun because I've faced more tragedy. And for me, let's dance in square one. Shit. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yes. I think that is exactly how I feel. I feel that, when I was growing up, right. And I have a reel of this. I have a TikTok or something. Anyway, when you were 12, I want to be like this. When you're 16, I want to be like this. When you're 26, you want to be like this, 30, whatever. And then when you're like 80s, you're like, man, I really wish I didn't compare myself. So I don't want to be that 80-year-old that's like, oh yeah, I was fine at like this age, like I thought I was fat in college. Why would I think that way? I don't know why I thought that way, because I wasn't, and I'm still not, right? So yes, I think when it all boils down, it boils down to priorities, right? Why are you feeling like you're back at square one? What is it that's so important to you? And then ask yourself, well, is that thing that you felt that was so important, is that really a priority? And really, I love that you said, fuck it, let's just dance. Yes, let's just dance. I feel like music changes our mood. So you got to press play, listen to music, get out of that funk,
Yeah. And just for the people out there who are maybe watching or listening, we're talking about mainly like where you're at in life, as far as maybe business, career, but this can also pertain towards relationships also. If you were spent, 9 years in a broken, toxic relationship, and then you find yourself in a new relationship and you're in love and everything's great, and then it turns out it's toxic also, when true colors start showing. And then you're finding you're saying to yourself, I'm back at square one. I am back to where I thought I left. I thought I got out of, so this can also pertain to that, empower yourself, advocate for yourself. You don't have to stay at square one or where you think square one is at in your mind. You don't have to stay there. Nobody has to stay where they're at. You can make changes, baby steps, or you can make big, massive changes and just instantly get yourself out of wherever you're at.
Yeah, exactly. When I think of being at square one, it doesn't just pertain to, entrepreneurs or to, like our situation, but there are several others. In fact, I have somebody in mind, and I know this person is going to be completely back at square one. But I'm going to tell you, her spirit is so inspiring, because even though she's going to be back at square one, the one thing that she told me was, I'm alive, and I get to, still experience life. So I think just knowing her story, I'm just like, wow, like she inspires me, to know that you're right. There's more to it than just feeling that woe is me, and know that there's a bigger picture that does entail being creative, that does entail using your imagination, that does entail moving outside of the pity party. So you got to get out of your pity party first, right? That's like first and foremost. Step out of it, because there's actually more you can do instead of saying woe is me.
Totally. Your energy is your currency. Where you spend your energy, you're basically investing it to create more of that. So if you're in a funk, like I said, push yourself out of that, get your body moving. You're going to shift your energy towards the good vibes, and then you're going to create more of that. And, but going back to the woe is me, we want you to acknowledge, if you're in a place of sadness, grief, if you're in a place where you just feel like, I need this time to just sit and wallow with this. And if that's something, because nobody knows you better than you. So if that's something that you need, it's okay. But again, going back to that moderation, if it starts to suck you down into a really deep, dark hole that actually is going to do more damage and harm to you, that's when you need to know yourself well enough to say, not today, Satan, not today, So you've got to reach out for help, reach out to your friends. Your friends and your family, they should love you, and they should be an army of love and support. And that's why I think friends and family are a blessing in life. And if they're toxic, cut it. And, there's people out there who are seeking friends, are seeking to be a support, inspiration, encourager in your life. And, I know as we get older, many of us are starting to realize, like, okay, it's good to have our friends. It's good to have our family. And you want that circle around you, right?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because, you're right. There are people out there that, can really be stuck in that mind frame of, oh my gosh, I'm back at square one. I can't do this. There are some people that do utilize that negative self-talk and continue to spin that in themselves. So I do want to acknowledge that. I do want to take note of that. And like Helen said, that's what friends are, and family are here for. But there are times that some people just don't want to reach out to family and friends, and they don't want to reach out to them because they're ashamed, or they feel like they're going to be a burden. So I just do want to say, and maybe we can put this in the notes, but the National Suicide Hotline, that's also a really good place to go to, when you are feeling like really down. I suggest that you do call that number if you do need somebody to talk to. that's one, right? But there's also Facebook. So there's Facebook pages that you can go on, if and you can talk to somebody, randomly if you'd want to. So you're not burdening your family and friends, but you're actually reaching out to somebody. I think the point is just reach out. Reach out. There's a much better way than to end your life. If that's something that you are thinking about, there are other ways, that you can surpass this, but you have to take that step. So you have to take that initial step. So please reach out, whether it be the hotline or Facebook, Instagram, find a friend.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, January. A lot of people know my story. My brother took his life back in 2017, and we were so close, and he was such a happy, vibrant person. And just one day he decided he would leave this world without saying goodbye, and it devastated our whole family. And sometimes I think about it quite often, like, where was he at? Where was he at in life that he felt that he just couldn't go on anymore? And I do know that he did feel like he wasn't needed. I do know that he did feel like there was no purpose in life. And he probably felt like he was back at square one, who knows with that part. But oftentimes when you are feeling like you're at square one, first acknowledge it, and then say to yourself, like, make a stance with yourself that you are going to do something to either move you on from square one or change your perspective about that square that you feel that yourself is in. Because you're worth it. You're worth it. Like, this is such a crazy human experience for everybody. There's nobody that's perfect. There's nobody that knows everything. Nobody has every single answer to every single thing. We're all trying to figure it out like each other. And there are people who are passing down knowledge, who are giving knowledge of what they know thus far. So in the grand scheme of things, it's just a big playground for a bunch of children who are living in adult skin, So when you step out of everything, when you step out and kind of look down at your life, you do have this compassion, like, take the skin out of it. And there's this child within you. And that child, you need to stand up for, because especially if you're an adult, like, I don't know if kids listen to this, but adults, I'm speaking to you. Look at yourself and say, there's a child within you that you owe it to, that you said, when I get older, I'm going to do this. When I get older, I'm going to do that. You owe it to that child to say, I got you. Today, we're going to have fun. Today, we're going to do this. Today, we're going to teach our kids this. Today, we're going to tell our loved ones this. Today, we're going to dance, we're going to play, we're going to sing, we're going to make stuff. We're going to get creative, because you owe it to that kid inside of you. Do you feel me, January?
Yes, because I know I'm in my 40s, but there are a lot of times I'm like, wait, no, I literally was just 12 not that long ago.
Right? It wasn't that long ago. Time went by like that.
So I'm like, and so I'm so thankful I have kids that I can play, like little kids that I can play with. Even when I didn't have little kids, I was a teacher. And so I was able to embrace that inner child. And I think that's what you're trying to say, is embrace that inner child and nurture that inner child, and I know, like, I feel like as we get older and we become adults, we become a little bit more pessimistic, and we become a little bit more like jaded and all that. But you're right, cultivate that inner child in you, because that inner child is longing to come out, and it's okay to have fun. And you and I know, like, I'm all about fun, girl. I'm all about fun. Yes. I think that's the one thing that, I think one of the things that I want to just last say is that, just have fun. Like, life is about fun, yes. Like, you may have like a ton of bills. You may have all these different stressors that are going on in your life, but step outside of that and find what you can be thankful for, because there are so many things to be thankful for. There's so many things that you can do, to get out of that funk, to get out of that, oh my gosh, I'm back at square one. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Enjoy life. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. It really isn't. And, the longer that we give that energy, because I love what you said about energy. It's all about this energy. And I can tell when I'm in inspired energy and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can feel this like vibrant feeling and this joy just like pop out of me. And I feel like if we can think about that, if we can just really, meditate on that and just meditate on energy and the energy that we're trying to, the energy that we want, you decide what energy do you want? Do you want the energy that is of like lack, of pity, of, sorrow? Do you want that energy, or do you want that energy of like, I want to have fun? What is it that you want? You get to decide. So you decide for yourself, where do you want to be? Right?
Yeah, totally. Like, okay, for example, I got to say this because one of my most favorite gratitude ideas when I think of like, what am I really thankful for besides, what is obvious, like family, friends, love, whatever. I'm all whatever. No, it's important. I always think about wheels, my car, my vehicle, because I remember what it was like not to have a vehicle for years. I was struggling. I'd take the bus to work. It was in Phoenix. It was hot. It was over 100 degrees. I'm waiting at the bus stop, just melting. And I just remember thinking, I wish I had a car. And then I'd get a car, my little cash. I got some cars. And then I got a junkie or a lemon. The car would break down all the time. So I was constantly paying for things with the car. But I thought to myself, at least I got a car. I got wheels. I can get from A to B. And then I'd drive by the bus station. I'd see people waiting there. And I'd say to myself, I remember what it was like to be at that bus station and just wishing, I had a car. So that always reminds me of how fortunate I am and how much a vehicle alone gives you freedom. It gives you freedom to travel, because there's still people out there who don't have vehicles, who wish they had a vehicle, and they got kids and they got jobs and they got all these things they need to do. And they're still figuring out life without a vehicle. And I think to myself, okay, I worked really hard to get to this point. I worked really hard to get the vehicle, that I have. And it just makes me more grateful for things like that. A bed, remember when you didn't have a bed, a roof over your head. There's these things that we use every day that we forget to be grateful for. And when you have these things, you're at your square one, but to somebody else, it's their square 30. You know what I mean? So that's like perspective change as well. And when you start realizing that, you're like, oh my God, I'm in somebody else's square 30. Like, I am so far. Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. You know what I mean? You start being more grateful.
Yep. It's that perspective, right? And you're right. We take for granted the little things that we have. Like, I can take a shower. Okay. There's a lot of people out there that can't. They have to go outside and then they use a bucket, and then that's how they shower, right?
That was me for a long time.
I mean, just like you, I took the bus and I cried. There was a time that the bus was on the other side and kept going. I'm like, what? So thank God we have a car. Thank God we have a bed. There's all these little things to be thankful for. And I feel once you start saying, your gratitude, it really does change the energy inside. It changes you. And then you're like, oh, I could do this. So you have this more like confidence about you after you realize, like, you're right, I'm at somebody's square 30, I'm not back there. So I love this topic.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing this topic up, because it's definitely something that I feel like I was in, and I'm like, oh, actually, I'm not.
I know. I feel like after this conversation, I'm like now reevaluating myself. I'm like, whoa, I just said this problem solution. I'm in square 30 right now. Like,
And we're
yeah,
we're evolving as we speak. Even though we may feel like we're not evolving, we are. We just can't see it, but we are. And I believe it. I believe that we are evolving. So we're not the same person that we were yesterday or even last year, right? We're completely different. So
absolutely.
new changes, new things, new slate. That's amazing. I love it. I love that we have a new slate.
Yeah. So just to wrap this up, I'd like to thank everybody out there for listening, for watching. Please share with your friends. Go on Spotify, give us a 5-star rating. Go on Apple or iTunes, give us a 5-star. We would love to get your review if you'd like to leave one on Sexy Freedom Media on our Facebook page. And just thank you so much. And if you don't know, go get my book. It's now on Audible, Nothing Sexier Than Freedom. And that's my piece. Thank you. January.
And if you want to follow me, please follow VIP Finance Builders. My day job is I'm a financial strategist. I actually create tax-free retirement accounts, amongst other things. I do rollovers and more things. So find me at VIP Finance Builders. Aloha. Thank you for watching. This is January. And Helen.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Bye.
Want to hear more?
Visit us at SexyFreedomMedia.com.